Hey guys, it's me again, Eric here at Mountaintop 9, and tonight I want to talk about one of my favorite Slayer albums, Divine Intervention. This one came out in 1994, and at the time I was 11 years old. I had just got into Slayer about a year before. I had only been listening to them for about a year, and the first album I was exposed to from this great band was South of Heaven. It was at a birthday party. A good friend of mine got me the cassette tape, and it was my first Slayer album, and I was really excited to delve into that one because I had read so much about them in metal magazines like Metal Maniacs, and Slayer was so popular at the time that they would even show up in lighter fare magazines like Metal Edge and Hit Parader. Remember those? And so I was quite familiar with Slayer and all of their cool t-shirts that you'd see in the Rockabilia section of the magazines. You'd see all these cool satanic evil designs with all kinds of cool monsters. I especially love the Root of All Evil shirt, the one with the green demon on the front, and he had the rows of glistening teeth. It just looked really scary to me when I was a kid. All of Slayer's stuff looked imposing to a young child back then. And not only would you see their t-shirt designs in the magazines, but then you would go into like your local CD and tape shop, and when you'd go into the metal section and you'd see the rows of Slayer stuff, when you pull out the tape and look at the covers and see stuff, the covers for albums like Hell Awaits and Show No Mercy and Seasons in the Abyss and all that, you could just tell that this was a ferocious band before even putting the album on. You just knew. I mean, it really struck an impression in a young kid's mind. So when my friend got me South of Heaven, I was eager to put it on, and from the first moment I heard the eerie opening strains to the title track, I was hooked. From that moment all the way to the closing seconds of Spill the Blood, I became a Slayer fan instantly after getting that tape. So a year later, when Divine Intervention came out, I was ready for it. And one thing that struck me right away about Divine Intervention was the cover. It's just very dark and ominous, but in a different way than the older albums. You know, album covers like Hell Awaits and Show No Mercy and stuff like that, they kind of had a cartoonish flair about them. They were kind of almost juvenile in nature. Still awesome and cool and very fitting to the material contained within, but Divine Intervention had a much more mature and sleek album cover. You know, with you got the skeleton there and he's grasping onto the top of the pentagram and it's like a dungeon type surrounding, but then when you peer through that you see the stars in the background and it kind of conjures up images and puts your imagination thinking about outer space and stuff like that. So it's just a little bit more out there and a little bit more creative maybe than some of the older album covers. It's just a different type of album cover, and it's very much fitting to the material that's on the album, because on this album, one thing that I like in particular was that Tom Araya took an even more forceful approach with lyric writing. He was contributing more and more lyrics now, and he was getting to explore his fascination with serial killers and true crime. And that's one thing that I really got a kick out of on Seasons in the Abyss, because you had a great classic track like Dead Skin Mask, which really explored the mindset of the famous murderer Ed Gein, and it really tried to peer through his eyes, and those lines are just classic, you know, dance with the dead in my dreams, listen to the hallowed screams. You know, it's just very eerie, and the way that Araya was starting to approach his vocal melodies were becoming more and more pronounced as well. Ever since South of Heaven, he had started exploring more territory with his voice as well. So I liked here on Divine Intervention how he was writing even more. As far as on the lyric front, Araya was, you know, going full steam ahead with this kind of lyrical subject matter. You know, on a song like Sex, Murder, Art, he really pushes this fetish angle, and it's just really sick, sleazy material. And we're going to get into that when I get into the track by track soon. Also, this is another album where Hanneman contributed a lot to the music, and I really like that because on albums where it's mostly Kerry King penned music, the albums can be kind of dull. It can get kind of flat when it's just Kerry writing the music, because Jeff Hanneman really had a knack for writing memorable guitar lines. He was the one that would come up with the real memorable stuff that you always have spinning in your head, you know, whether it be Angel of Death or South of Heaven or Seasons in the Abyss or whatever. He just had a real talent for coming up with catchy, memorable guitar lines. So it's nice that Hanneman, you know, wasn't in a writer's block or anything like that. So that's another reason why I think this is a strong album. Now, also, Dave Lombardo had exited the picture, and the show was all on Paul now. It was on his shoulders to deliver a great album as far as the drums are concerned. And I think he did a damn fine job. I've never had a problem with Paul on the drums. I know a lot of people worship at the altar of Dave Lombardo, and that's understandable. I mean, amazing drummer. But I just never really felt strongly either way. I could take it either way. It could be Dave or Paul on the album, and it doesn't really matter to me. It's not like... I can't imagine an album where Tom Araya isn't the lead vocalist. I can't imagine that. But as long as you've got an able-bodied drummer back there doing a damn fine job, if my mind is not even really thinking about the drums, then I don't give a fuck. So Paul did a damn good job in my opinion. But without any further rambling, let me dive right into this album and tell you what I think about it track by track. The opening track is Killing Fields, and I think that Slayer's intention here was to make Paul's presence felt right away behind the drum kit, because there's this really strong flourish of pounding drums. Another thing I like about this song is the heavy rhythm guitar that's chugging along right before Tom Araya's vocals kick in. And then that's what really sets the mood right off the bat. You can tell that this is going to be a different kind of Slayer album, because you've got Tom saying lines like, "The taste of blood can rip your soul apart." It just reminds me of something like Hellraiser. It makes me think weird S&M type imagery, and just there's this mature type of darkness, a dark cloud that settles around this album immediately. There's no cartoonish shit here. And I'll tell you what, in this song, when that second half, when the fast part kicks in, this song just closes out in a way that takes no fucking prisoners. So Killing Fields is an excellent opening track for a Slayer album, no doubt about it. Sex Murder Art comes up next, and man, I have always loved this track. This is a blink and you'll miss it track, because it just storms by in such a crazy blitz of energy that you won't even know what fucking hits you by the time this song's over. Tom Araya wrote some crazy lyrics for this one. Stuff like the urge to take my fist and violate every orifice and a subjective mannequin, beaten into submission, raping again and again. I mean, this is wild, offensive, crazy stuff that I'm sure would get plenty of people up in a tizzy if they whipped out a Slayer booklet and started reading the lyrics to Sex Murder Art. This stuff is a long ways away from the stuff on Show No Mercy, from stuff like The Antichrist and Die by the Sword. This song is a whole different animal right here. This is true reality-based shit that really touches a nerve with you. And the music is a perfect accompaniment, because from the very first moment this song starts, it has a really evil guitar intro. It's heavy, hard-hitting, and like I said, just a blitz of energy. So Sex Murder Art, great second track. There is no doubt that this album is off to an amazing start, and we're only 2 tracks in. The third track on the album is Fictional Reality, and I gotta tell you, this is the first moment on the album that's kind of a letdown. This is just a so-so song. It's mediocre. It's a Kerry King written track, and it serves its purpose as a time filler, but it just never really gets you going. It's just kind of generic. The chorus lyric is kind of boring. Castrate society, fictional reality. Doesn't really do much for me. I mean, after a song like Sex Murder Art, it's kind of hard to stay at that level of intensity, you know. So this track kind of brings it back down a little bit in quality. I do like halfway through the song somewhere, there's a squealing, high-pitched lead section that has a nice doomy riff pounding away underneath. I like that section because it briefly calls to mind something like Live Undead, something of that nature, because of the heavy doomy type vibe that it lends the track. But that section is just way too brief, and then we go back into the rest of the song. And yeah, overall, Fictional Reality, just mediocre, man. It's not an excellent song. It's just okay. It's one that if you're in a hurry, you can just hit skip and get to the next fucking track. Kerry King redeems himself with the next track on this fucking album, Ditto Head. This song is famous in the Slayer pantheon because it's just such a thrashy, energetic motherfucker, and Araya spits those lyrics out with his trademarked venom, and it's, you know, very much... Lyrically, this song is very much of its time. And what I mean is when I hear these lyrics criticizing the judicial system and saying things like, here in 1994, violence is what we adore, it very much makes me remember the type of cinema, the kind of movies that were popular at the time, like Natural Born Killers, you know, all that Tarantino type shit. And just very much a topical song and reflective of the times. And like I said, the amazing thing, the thing that I always got a kick out of when I was a kid watching the Live Intrusion VHS, I would be amazed at how Tom could get those words out in time with the music, because this song is just a blazing, fast speedball of energy, just a great jolt in the arm after a track like Fictional Reality. This song really, you know, elevates your mood, picks everything up again, and it's just balls to the wall. So, Ditto Head, I mean, no complaints here. It's in and out. It's fucking means business, and it's a good track on the album. Next up, we have the title track, Divine Intervention, and I gotta tell you, I've always loved this one. From the moment I first heard this album, and even in the live setting, when you'd watch their performance of it on Live Intrusion, this is just a dynamite song. I can't believe that this song isn't a staple of the live set. From the moment that first riff comes in, it's just so goddamn catchy and delicious sounding. I want to eat the fucking thing. I'm telling you, it's just got a great groove to it. You can really feel this fucking song move you as soon as it starts. It just gets you in this great fucking heavy mood, and then it has great contrasting guitar sections in the Slayer tradition. You've got these high, eerie picked notes, and then underneath you've got this crushing pattern going on. It's just another excellent example of how Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman would play off of one another. And then when the first verse comes in, it's like a fucking atom bomb. Tom Araya screams himself hoarse on this song, but in a good way. It's not like on the new albums where his scream just has this annoying quality to it because he's screaming in every fucking song. No, this song, he's screaming at it, but it's with a purpose. It's because it matches this section of music, so it's not annoying or irritating like a lot of the new stuff. And then even the lead section, when the lead guitars come in halfway through the song, they have a very ethereal quality about it. And I like that because the music to this song really matches the lyrics because they're very vague and ambiguous. They really capture your imagination and open your mind because you're wondering, is this song about aliens? Is this song about a god tormenting someone, or, you know, extraterrestrials abducting someone and doing all kinds of vile experiments on them? It really makes you wonder because the song, I think, leaves it open to interpretation. You can kind of make up your mind on that. And the funny thing is that all four members of the band contributed lyrics to this one track. And I think that that's what lends kind of a disjointed, schizophrenic nature to the track. Because you've got four different guys penning lines, so obviously some of them are going to line up in different ways, and man, it's just, this song is just stellar. And like I said, the amazing thing about this track is I think it should be like Angel of Death and South of Heaven and Chemical Warfare, stuff like that, where it should be a staple of the live set. This is just a great song, and it's right at the top for me as far as Slayer tracks go. A fucking plus. The next track is Circle of Beliefs, and it's a good Kerry King penned track. It's a religion bashing type thing. You know, it has lyrics that are heavily critical of organized religion, and you know, Kerry's always liked to write stuff like that. But the difference here is that on this track, they're laid out in a very sensible, coherent way. They're intelligently written. Even if you don't agree with the lyrics, they're not juvenile. They're not fucking stupid. You know, this track was written before Kerry became a big Slipknot fan and started writing very immature and stupid fucking lyrics. You know, stuff on... Ever since God Hates Us All came out, I don't even think he went full tilt into the asinine lyric writing on Diabolus and Musica. I think it really started on God Hates Us All, where his lyrics just took a downturn in quality. You know, on songs like New Faith and Payback, I just think a lot of those lyrics are stupid, they're not as insightful, they don't sound mature. On Divine Intervention, you still don't have that issue. Everything is still laid out in a very sensible way. These are good lyrics. And they match the music. I think the music is really well written on Circle of Beliefs. It thrashes its way through several different sections. I like that. It doesn't have a samey, boring, generic type sound to it that Fictional Reality did. This song keeps you engaged all the way through. So yeah, overall, Circle of Beliefs is a good track. It's not great, but it's entertaining. SS3 charges in next, and I really like the moody opening riff to this one. Also, the lyrics are very memorable. You've got lines like hunting, fighting, killing whore, wade through blood and spill some more. That stuff kind of gets caught in your brain, and you'll find yourself reciting that long after the fucking song's over. It's just memorable stuff. It's catchy lyric writing. I also like the fast thrash section right after Tom shouts out Sabotage Campaign. It just comes in, and that is one really hard charging moment that slams you over the head and gets your blood rushing. So overall, I think that a song like SS3 captures two different elements of the Divine Intervention sound overall, because it's got some moodiness going on, and then it's got some fast, heavy thrash to it too. So both elements coming together like chocolate and peanut butter. So this is a good one. SS3 is definitely one that you don't want to skip. Serenity and Murder comes up next, and I gotta tell you, this is another one that I've always loved. It is a short, snappy track with grim as fuck lyrics, and I have always loved how Tom Araya would explore his vocal terrain back then, and he'd really try different things, different dynamics, and this song is like that. It, you know, it harkens back to how he would experiment with his vocals on tracks like Behind the Crooked Cross on South of Heaven, or Temptation on Seasons in the Abyss. This just has a very memorable quality to it, and those lyrics, the pallid ashen face, eyes once bright are now fading, they're just really morbid. They are so much different than a song like, for instance, like Necrophiliac on Hell Awaits. That is a really dark, evil, morbid song, but the way those lyrics are written, they're more straightforward, you know, saying stuff like, feel the urge, the growing need to fuck this sinful corpse. I mean, that's right up there in your face. Stuff like Serenity and Murder kind of plays around with the words. It's kind of a cock tease, if you will. You know, it's not going for the gusto. It's not going for the money shot right away. It wants to tease you and make your mind expand and make you reflect on the lyrics about the darkness that's contained deep inside them. And I think that a track like Serenity and Murder does that wonderfully. So yeah, this is another dark, delicious, evil track, and it just epitomizes Slayer to me, and it epitomizes the Divine Intervention era and why I love it so much. And next up is another one of my all-time favorites, and this song I love on many different levels, and the song I speak of is 213. Now, this track was written about Jeffrey Dahmer, the notorious cannibal serial killer. And you know, in the early 90s, he sent shockwaves throughout the country, throughout the world even. It was a very much publicized case. And when I was a kid, I was always into horror flicks and into morbid type stuff, and I loved reading true crime novels and satanic panic books of the era. So I was already well versed in the case of Jeffrey Dahmer just from reading the fucking books about him. There was a book called Step Into My Parlor, and I think a couple others I had checked out of the library and read. So I already knew all about the Jeffrey Dahmer case. So when I heard this track and read the lyrics, I knew exactly what Tom was writing about. And the lyrics to this song are just so imaginatively written by Tom. You can really tell that he really wanted to delve deep in the mind of a serial killer. Those opening lines, driving compulsion, morbid thoughts come to mind, sexual release buried deep inside, and it just, the lyrics to this song roll off the tongue. They're very well and concisely written and just fit and flow perfectly with the music in a very magical way. And I gotta tell you, the music to this song, the other great aspect is that Jeff Hanneman wrote the music to this one, and he's on his A game. And it starts with eerie, clean guitar notes, very similar and reminiscent of stuff you'd hear in Spill the Blood and in Seasons in the Abyss. And these clean picked guitar lines just instantly set a macabre, eerie feeling of unease. It just creeps through your veins. It just gives you goosebumps and makes your hair stand on end. Jeff Hanneman was the master at that. He really had a knack for opening a song in a really eerie and malevolent way. And then when the heavy charging parts come in, when Araya is shouting those dark and demented verse lyrics, the music has this pulsating and frenzied onward sensation, like it's just propelling you forward with a burst of fucking energy. This song just really gets to you. And there's also some oddball dissonance in the guitar lines in some parts. This song really captures the darkness of Slayer that they had during this era. You know, when you'd see that Slayer name written, like I was talking about earlier, when you go into a fucking tape shop and you'd look at the Slayer name, you'd say, man, that band must be really fucking dark and evil. Well, a track like 213 lends credence to that thought, okay? Other stuff on this album, Killing Fields, Sex, Murder, Art, Serenity and Murder, Divine Intervention, they lend credence to that in a way that Slayer really doesn't do anymore. You know, when you listen to stuff off Repentless and Christ Illusion and World Painted Blood and God Hates Us All, those albums don't do it for me in the way that stuff on Divine Intervention and on the older albums. This stuff is where the magic was at. It's where the darkness was at, and where you felt like Slayer was coming from a place that was frightening and genuine and imposing. And a song like 213 is just a classic example of that. And this is another one I wish that they would have done more often in the live set. I don't know if they really ever did this song past the Divine Intervention tour, because I know they did it live, because I remember on the Live Intrusion video they did this track. But all the times I ever saw Slayer, they sure as fuck didn't play 213. I definitely would have remembered it, so I don't think it's one that they pull out of the dustbin too often. But it's a damn shame, because this is a dark, evil song about very heavy lyrical subject matter here, about a real-life serial killer, and it explores those themes to the fullest. Just really sick song. So 213, excellent. Definitely don't skip this one. After the frantic, majestic heights of 213, we have the closing track, Mind Control. And this one is a good song. It's not great, but it is a solid album closer. It's a fast, up-tempo, thrash track, and it just closes out the album on a good note. I really don't have a lot to say about this one. It's just like I said, it's one that closes the album out in a fitting manner. And yeah, guys, that's about all I have to say about this album. If you are a Slayer fan and you don't have Divine Intervention yet, is that even fucking possible? I mean, what the fuck am I even on about? If you're a Slayer fan, you have Divine Intervention. Now, I know some people don't appreciate this album as much as I do, but yeah, I'm a diehard fan of this album. I really am. It struck me at the right point in my life because it came out, like I said, a year after I'd really gone full tilt into the world of Slayer, so it got me at a very impressionable age. This is one that I spent many nights as a young kid listening to in a dark room and just feeling the power surge through my veins. And it's just a classic Slayer album, in my opinion. I think it's the last great album that they ever did. So yeah, guys, I'm going to be doing more Slayer album reviews here in the near future. I think I'm going to do Show No Mercy next. And if you guys liked this video, please click the like button. Also, please leave me a comment. Tell me what some of your favorite Divine Intervention songs are. I'd love to hear it. Also, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. And you know what? I'll see you guys next time.